from youth to elderly, and focus on a broad spectrum of symptoms, disorders, and issues. One of the programs we offer in the community is mental health first aid. We were trained as mental health first aid instructors several years ago and are pleased to be able to bring this valuable information on mental health awareness and suicide prevention to individuals in the community. We think it's an important step in equipping people with tools they need to help others and to fight against the stigma often associated with mental illness. We'd like to share this information about the program with you this evening.
People who enroll in local mental health first aid courses learn a 5-step action plan to help loved ones, colleagues, neighbors, and others cope with mental health or substance use problems. Similar to traditional first aid and CPR, mental health first aid is help provided to a person developing a mental health problem or experiencing a crisis until professional treatment is obtained or the crisis resolved.
Mental health first aid is evidence-based public education and prevention tool. It improves the public's knowledge of mental health and substance use problems and connects people with care for their mental health or substance use problems.
Mental health first aid was originally created in Australia, remember that for later on, in 2001 under the auspices of the University of Melbourne, and is now international with programs in countries such as the United Kingdom, China, Canada, Finland, and Singapore.
Trainees go through a training program offered in 3 different formats: 8-hour in-person training, a blended training of 2 hours self-paced online instruction followed by 4.5 hours of in-person training, and then also virtual training. The course teaches a 5-step action plan to assess a situation, select and implement appropriate interventions, secure appropriate care for individuals experiencing mental health problems.
Trainees also learn risk factors and warning signs of mental illnesses and addiction, and about available treatments. Upon completion, participants better understanding the impact mental illnesses and addictions have on a person, their families, and communities. At this point, we're going to share a PowerPoint presentation with you. So what are mental health problems, illnesses, and disorders? And if we can ask you to participate with us a little bit and maybe write in the comments, and then Brandon, maybe you can share those with us. We'd love to know, what terms do you hear used in the community to describe individuals that have mental health problems, illnesses, and disorders? In other words, when you're roaming around your cities or you're participating in activities and someone refers to someone that might have a mental health problem, what term, what comment, what word do they use to describe those individuals? Does anybody have any ideas?
Nothing yet.
Brandon, can you think of a term that someone might use?
Me personally, I just say they have a mental health problem or an issue, maybe. Somebody in the chat said nut.
That's right. Very good. That's one of the top ones that are usually used, along with crazy.
Yeah. Loony.
She's lost it.
Psycho.
What's wrong with you? What do you notice about the terms that we just talked about? What do you notice, Brandon? Are all of those really positive comments?
They're definitely negative comments.
That's right. And we have to ask ourselves, why do we have negative terms for mental illnesses and disorders. And really, usually any time that we are uncertain about something, we're not sure about it, we don't have maybe the real information about it, so we're nervous or we have fear, we end up with some miscommunication, and society often, thinks that in these terms because they just don't have the information they need to know how to help people or what is wrong. They just know they're different than they are, so they think they're not okay.
On average, 123 people die by suicide each day.
And from 1999 to 2016, 630,000 people died from drug overdose.
Nearly 1 in 5 United States adults live with a mental illness.
And I know, Brandon, that you had mentioned that we might have about 30 people possibly participating in tonight's group. And if we look at the 1 in 5, that means that about 5 that would be participating in this group could have a mental illness. So it's something to pay attention to, and it's something to try to get more information about and figure out how we can help and how we can assist.
Some other statistics, lesbian, gay, and bisexual youth are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than straight youth. Transgender people are 12 times more likely to attempt suicide than the general population. We're putting a couple of numbers on here that'd be important for you to maybe put down in your phone. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and also the text line to NAMI, so 741-741.
So how do we identify, understand, and respond to signs of addictions and mental illnesses?
Okay, so this is what the mental health first aid is all about. Mental health first aid is the initial help offered to a person developing a mental health or substance use problem or experiencing a mental health crisis. The first aid is given until appropriate treatment and support are received or until the crisis resolves. Like CPR, the first mental health first aid is given until appropriate treatment and support are received. So again, it's just that initial help. It's not a substitute for counseling, medical care, peer support, or other professional treatment.
We often call it the link because we're linking that first aid, that the person that has the problem, to the first aid that they need. The course teaches risk factors and warning signs of mental health concerns and information on depression and anxiety, trauma, psychosis, and substance use, and how to recognize that. There's a 5-step action plan that we'll share with you in a moment to help someone developing a mental health concern or in crisis. And you'll notice here on the screen that it is available and also in Spanish, and it's a professional, peer, and self-help resources that are available in the classes. The standard adult course, as I said, is also in Spanish, and then the youth or the class that teaches adults to train youth is a separate 8-hour course that specifically teaches participants to help youth in the ages of 12 to 18 who may be developing a mental health concern or in crisis. Now, as we said earlier, this was started in Australia. So I remember I said, remember that, and there's a reason for that, and that's because we have a little acronym that is used, and we have our little koala bears, and that is their little mascot. So we wanted to share our little koala bears with you because That is the little mascot for mental health first aid.
Considered the algae bear.
That's right, the algae bear. And so we're going to go through algae and what it means.
Okay, so the acronym ALGE, the ALGEE, A stands for Assess for Risk of Suicide or Harm.
The L is for listen non-judgmentally.
The G is Give Reassurance and Information.
The first E is encourage appropriate professional help.
The second E is Encourage self-help and other support strategies.
So there's a lot of things during the training that are games and activities, puzzles, and things that will help you learn and memorize the algae. And it's just important to be able to use that anywhere that you're going, just like you would for CPR.
And when people are using mental health first aid to help other people, the ALGEE, it doesn't have to be in any particular order. You can do any of these in any order that is needed at the time. Okay, so this next slide is really just kind of an overview of the adult curriculum. We're going to learn a little bit about what is mental health first aid, some of the specific statistics in the United States, and we're going to develop mental health action plans for some of the main mental health disorders, such as depression, anxiety, psychosis, substance abuse. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how to use the mental health first aid training.
So many times when someone talks about mental health, we do think of psychosis. We think of the worst case scenarios many times in life. And what you'll learn in the training is that that is not the most common. And so we encourage you to sign up to receive the training and the additional information. So that way you'll be able to recognize these things and how to help people get the assistance they need.
Also, I think it just helps to destigmatize the mental health, and it's not as scary if you have information about how you can help your coworker or your neighbor or a family member if you notice they're experiencing some symptoms or things are just a little off, a little different.
On this screen, you'll notice it's broken up in the areas of prevention, early intervention, and treatment. So much like when we look at our physical health, if we are to remain healthy or well, as the term is shown on the bottom of the screen, we need to eat well, we need to exercise, we need to get enough sleep in order to be healthy. Same thing with mental health. We need to do things to not be stressed. We need to recognize when we're in stress. We need to do some things that we'll describe here in a little bit to try to de-stress. And as we recognize, perhaps with a cold or the flu or a symptom that would help us recognize we have a problem with our physical health, many times it's a colleague or a spouse or family member that recognizes that something is different, something has changed with us mentally, that maybe we're just down or we're having a hard time getting out of bed or whatever it may be, that it's different. There's a change in how we normally act to how we are currently. That's called the early intervention, and it's a sign of becoming unwell. And that is really the time, as you'll notice on the bottom of the screen, where mental health first aid can help on the spectrum of mental health intervention. So to be that link in order to take the person to receive some assistance for their mental health issue. Because if it's not dealt with, then it becomes even more unwell until treatment is brought into the scene. So if I was depressed and I came to Fort County, I might be able to meet with Kathy as a therapist, and she would assist me in recognizing why I'm depressed and what I can do about it. And through that process and that treatment plan that she would work with me on, that would allow me to reach the last stage, which is in the recovering. And that's certainly by the recovering, then it kind of connects back to being well again. So we want to help people to recover.
This next slide just gives you a little bit of an overview in the United States of all the people that are being reached with mental health first aid. More than 1 million first aiders in the United States, trained by more than 12,000 instructors. And in the state of Kansas, it's in the dark blue area, which just means that 0.3% of the population have gone through first aid training. And the statistic there says 19,145 individuals. And that was in 2017. So in the 3 years since, I'm sure that is significantly increased.
And the next slide kind of talks about who we are reaching. The course is appropriate for anyone that's 18 years or older and wants to learn more about mental illnesses. The majority of the courses are taught in a general community audience. And as you can see here, we have businesses and corporations, we have faith communities, law enforcement, primary care, social services, education. And the specific audiences include
teachers, supervisors, first responders, caretakers, co-workers, journalists, parents, and even international superstars and first ladies love mental health first aid. So there's been a lot in the social media about it. Michelle Obama has been a big supporter, and Lady Gaga has done a lot for mental health awareness. But there are two well-known people that are supporting this program and this initiative.
This slide talks about some testimonials. I won't read these, but you'll see one here from a peer support specialist, from a pastor, and from a police officer. And Kathy and I had the privilege of teaching the mental health first aid training to a group of police officers out in our Cali catchment area. And I think not only did they feel like they learned a lot through the process, we certainly learned a lot from them, because that is a group in our community that are dealing on a daily basis with folks with lots of different situations and scenarios going on in life, and they interact with a lot of folks with mental illnesses.
And again, just an opportunity to talk to people in the community about what some of the resources are available, and to give them maybe a different perspective of some of the things that the individuals with mental illness are going through.
Next, we want to give you some self-care tips.
I think it goes without saying that 2020 is a year for the book, and it's been very stressful for lots of different reasons. So these are just some ideas of ways that you can take care of yourself, because that's really important. So self-care means taking time to do things you enjoy. Usually self-care involves everyday activities that you can find relaxing, fun, or energizing. These activities could be as simple as reading a book or as big as taking a vacation.
Self-care also means taking care of yourself. This means eating regular meals, getting enough sleep, caring for personal hygiene, and anything else that maintains good health.
I would like to add on that one, again, so many times we get caught up and just go, and we just don't realize how overwhelming everything becomes. And I like to use the analogy of, you wouldn't expect a car to keep going if you didn't put fuel in it. And it's the same with ourselves, whether physically, emotionally, spiritually, you have to be putting in those things to get a good output. Okay, so making your self-care a priority. There will always be other things to do, but don't let these interrupt the time you set aside for self-care. Self-care should be given the same importance as other responsibilities.
So you want to set some specific self-care goals. You know, it's difficult to follow through with vague goals, such as, I want to take more time for self-care. I mean, that's a nice statement, but you probably won't, you may not do it, you know, if you don't write it down or if you don't actually set a specific goal. So instead, trying something specific like, I'm going to walk for 30 minutes every evening after dinner. That way it's measurable and you can kind of hold yourself accountable for doing something.
Make self-care a habit. Just like eating one apple doesn't eliminate health problems, Using self-care just once won't have much effect on reducing stress. Choose activities that you can do often and that you'll continue to participate in.
You want to also set some boundaries to protect your self-care. You don't need a major obligation to say no to others. Your self-care is reason enough. So remind yourself that your needs are as important as anyone else's needs. This one reminds me of when you see the commercial or you hear about being on an airplane and the importance of putting on your own oxygen mask before you can put it on the child or the adult that's next to you that needs that help, that we need to provide ourselves with self-care before we can care for others.
A few minutes of self-care is better than no self-care. Set an alarm reminding you to take regular breaks, even if it's just to walk around the block or uninterrupted snack. Oftentimes, stepping away will energize you to work more efficient when you return.
And unhealthy activities don't count as self-care. Substance use, overeating, and other unhealthy behaviors might hide uncomfortable emotions temporarily, but they cause more problems in the long run.
Keep up with self-care even when you're feeling good. Doing so will keep you in a healthy routine. Plus, self-care might be part of the reason why you're feeling good.
So, of course, with this, we want to encourage you to take a course if you're interested in more information. And here we've listed the mentalhealthfirstaid.org is where you can locate us on the internet. Or you're certainly most welcome to call Fort County Mental Health Center. Our number is 620-331-1748. And those of us, Kathy and Robin, and then Melissa Lunsford also have the training for adults. And then our training for youth is by Megan Brown.
I'd also like to take this opportunity to let you know if you call us 331-1748, again, that's our main Fort County mental health number. And we have all sorts of programs available in the counties that we serve, Montgomery, Elk, Chautauqua, Wilson, and Cowley. We have services for children and adults. We have individual therapy. We have medical providers. We have case management for children. Adults.
We have group therapy.
Group therapy, alcohol and drug services. We have parenting classes. So there are just a lot of different ways that we help people with their mental health needs.
And we even have connections that can provide transportation to those. And Kathy, you're also in charge of another group.
Yes, I have a program that's for people who are family caregivers because we know that that in itself is stressful. I don't know if you'll be able to see these. These are our
additional phone numbers, and it's also the suicide prevention line, so we really wanted to provide that for you. And then our crisis after hours number, which we are here live at our Fort County offices in the evening until 6 o'clock every night, except Friday, we close at 5. But Monday through Thursday until 6 o'clock. Then from 6 and all night long, we have a nightline service that will assist people with their needs, and we'll do follow-up with them the next day. Now we wondered if you have any questions for us. So if you would like to type into the chat or whatever you call that, Brandon, then if they would like to ask questions, let us know, and we'll do our best to answer them. And we can't hear you.
I was good up until about the last month, and then I keep forgetting to put the mute on, or take the mute off. We had one question early on. So say it dealt with the suicide hotline. Say that you don't think you're quite there to that edge yet, but are you able to call that even if you're not necessarily suicidal, just to talk out the issues, or?
Well, the crisis nightline, that number that Kathy just put up there, or if you call the 1748 number, it will take you to our nightline. So if it's just someone that's needing to visit with someone and has concerns, I would probably suggest that number first. Would you?
I mean, our crisis department is they're basically going to want to know, are you a danger to yourself or others? And then they'll let you know some other options, some other assistance. I do think that there are crisis numbers out there. I think the one that we had listed earlier is a talk line.
Yes.
And like with the NAMI line, those are people that just, any kind of, no matter where you are with your crisis, that they would help you.
So that National Suicide Prevention line, that 800-273-TALK, 8255, yes, you could call with any situation you had going.
Yes.
Any other questions?
None coming up in the chat at the moment. We just got one in. Many people struggling with mental health issues have difficult reaching out because they don't feel comfortable opening up. Do you have any tools on how to help talk to someone who can someone who you can tell is struggling silently? Sorry.
What was the last thing you said, Brandon?
Do you have any tools on how to help talk to someone who you can tell is struggling silently?
Okay, and I think, again, with algae, one of the main things, so that L is to listen non-judgmentally. If you can let someone know that you sincerely just care about them, that you're there for them, you're willing to listen and be supportive. And again, with this training, it takes you through all the steps and all the action plans.
One little tip question is a lot of times to ask, have you felt this way before? And what have you done about it? So that sometimes, even though maybe they've not reached out for help, it maybe gives them a launching pad to open up and share some more information. So it just helps to have the person start talking. So if you can find a way to just ask them how, what did you do today? Just to, get some conversation going.
And I guess, again, we're talking about this program, the mental health first aid. That's what you're doing. You're offering first aid to someone who's struggling. And, it just helps people become more comfortable with noticing, addressing it, being able to say, hey, you know what, I just noticed you're a little bit more quiet than usual. Are you doing okay? It just lets them know, again, non-judgmentally, that you're someone there that can give them support. And sometimes people aren't ready to talk, and maybe sometimes just being with someone, just sitting next to someone, just being quiet with someone, that's another way that you can show support.
Sure. A lot of times we feel uncomfortable, I think, with the silence, and it can be fun to watch a movie with someone or play a game with someone, but if they're not feeling well, they may enjoy you reading to them or just sitting there in silence just so they're not alone.
I think just being able to have that conversation, just to open it up, letting them know that you care, that, supporting, that, you're willing to help them find the resources that they need, makes a difference.
That's all the questions that are in the chat. I will share the documents that you shared with me in the email later on this evening with the page.
Okay, we are going to go over that in
I'm sorry.
just a minute, if that's okay.
Sorry about that.
But that's okay if there aren't any other questions.
Yeah. If everyone has a pen and some paper, we're going to take you through a little exercise and give you just a second to grab some pen and paper.
We're excited to be able to be a part of your program this week. And especially this month is Suicide Awareness Month, so this is a good opportunity to talk about these things.
So this little exercise talks about juggling. What are you juggling?
So again, people are often juggling so many tasks, they don't know where to start. I know usually stressors don't just come one at a time. So this is just an exercise to help you identify some of the things that might be impacting you and maybe you weren't even aware of.
The first question.
On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being high stress, where would you rate yourself today? So again, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most stressed. What's the highest you would score last week? Last month? This year?
And it might even be fun to compare this year with a different year because there's been a lot of stress going on this year. Some people do well with quarantine and consolidation,
Right.
and others do not.
And who are you responsible for? Include all family or friends that you check on, whether in the home, at a facility, or by telephone, and don't forget yourself. So again, all the people that you're responsible for. Just make a little list.
Maybe all your friends, and maybe people that you just, once in a blue moon get to talk to, but it's like maybe or maybe you should check on them more often. So just list them all on the paper. And it is kind of funny, but if it hadn't have said, don't forget yourself, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have written my name down. We just don't. We don't think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question is, what are some of the tasks that you find overwhelming at times? What are some of the tasks that you find overwhelming at times? Not every day is alike, so
No.
sometimes picking out what I'm going to wear for the day can be overwhelming.
Yeah, just keeping up with the laundry and making the grocery list.
That's right. What are we having for dinner?
Right.
And other days it's fun. So, What makes up your support system? So what does that mean exactly, Kathy? Support system.
So that could be like who's an emotional support for you? Who's a good support? Is it family members or friends or organization like, SEK Pride or church or,
Your
any
bowling
kind of,
your bowling team.
any kind of community group, coworkers, peers, significant other.
And what are some diversionary activities that you have enjoyed in the past or have wanted to try? So something that you're doing that you enjoy.
I think what's important about this list is sometimes we just get, again, so busy, we stop doing things that we really enjoy, and you stop and think. Because I know I used to just love reading all the time, and it wasn't until I had a surgery earlier this year that I was like, you know what, I need to go back in the library, and I forget how happy I am in the library, and so just making a list and reminding yourself periodically, yeah, you know what, I love to do photography, and I need to go to the park or go take some pictures of wildlife, or, for people who are gardeners, I need to get my hands back in the dirt, or, people like to go fishing, whatever it is.
Drawing or painting.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go bowling this last weekend. I love to bowl. I'm not very good at it, but it's like
Yeah.
it's just something I don't go do very often.
Right.
So they asked me what I wanted to do for my birthday. I'm like, we're going bowling.
I like it. That's good. And the last thing we're going to do on this list is what are 5 things that you can do for yourself this week?
And if you want to, go ahead and type that in the chat also if you want to share some of those things.
Some things that you can do just for yourself.
And being a mom for what feels like 1,000 years, it's sometimes really hard to think about that, because when I first thought about this question, it's like I'm constantly thinking about doing something for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just used to that, whether it is doing the laundry or cooking or whatever. So it's like back to thinking about those activities, that it's okay for self-care, and it's okay for us to do things that make us feel good, so that way we can be that extra good caregiver for others.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody wrote that they are going to find a quiet moment to themselves.
Awesome.
Yes, that's excellent.
Today I took a drive to get out of the house because I've been sitting at the computer all week for this. So I went and visited my parents.
Awesome.
Somebody else said crochet, listening to the trees, and drinking warm drinks because of the cold front that moved into Southwest Kansas. So we got someone from Southwest Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Epsom salts is one of my favorites. Lavender Epsom salts. I love to put them in the bathtub. They smell so good.
Mm-hmm. My wife has drink a hot cup of tea. There's just something about it.
I've discovered that I really like sitting on the porch in the morning drinking coffee. Something I never thought I'd do, but just having that time to relax. And
Okay, any other suggestions at this point?
I think that's all from the chat.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. So then one of the last things that we need to do are just some specific techniques that you can utilize if you are feeling a little bit overwhelmed or stressed, and just good for your overall mental health. One of them is deep breathing. And so I want to teach you a skill that's just called 4 square breathing. And this is really good if you're anxious, if you've got chronic pain, if you're feeling overwhelmed, depressed, even angry, just any kind of emotion, deep breathing can cover that. So it's called 4 square breathing, and you're going to do everything in 4-second intervals. So if you want to practice this wherever you are, you're going to inhale slowly to the count of 4. You're going to inhale through your nose, and then you're going to hold your breath for 4 seconds, and then you're going to exhale slowly through your mouth for 4 seconds, and then you can wait 4 seconds and do it again. So it's just kind of a and then you wait 4 seconds and do it again. And it seems really simple, but it's one of those things when we start to get really anxious and our emotions are ratcheting up, sometimes we just stop breathing properly, and our body and brain doesn't get the oxygen that it needs. And that just the breathing and the counting while you do it can help just kind of de-escalate things a little bit. You probably notice, like if you ever get angry, and, you know, your emotions are all the way up here, you know, or you're really anxious or having a panic attack, you can't think really clearly when your emotions are really elevated. So the breathing just kind of gets things back to baseline, so it helps you make better decisions. So the thing about breathing exercises, you can do it anywhere, and it's not really obvious to anyone. So, like, if you're someone who struggles in crowds and, you know, going to the store is just really difficult for you, I mean, you can do that, a breathing exercise there, and no one would know. So just something to keep in mind. Another skill, progressive relaxation. There's lots of books and articles. I would tell you that any of you that have cell phones with apps, there are all sorts of free apps out there for mental health that you can utilize. Well, I mean, there's ones you can pay for, but I'm cheap. I only do the free ones. But there's ones out there that have like progressive relaxation scripts. That's basically just going to tell you how to tighten and relax all your muscle groups from the top of your head down to the bottom of your feet. And it's just kind of a slow process. And afterwards, I mean, you just, it feels really good, helps you to relax, helps you to, again, be ready to tackle anything that you've got going on. Visualization, that's a skill where you can just get comfortable in a chair, you can close your eyes, and you're going to visualize one of your favorite, most comfortable scenes. So for me, I just love all things water. So like if I was going to do a visualization, I would choose maybe that I'm looking at the ocean, and you're going to try and use all of your senses to just kind of incorporate into that. So I'd be like, what kinds of things am I seeing? I'd be seeing the water, the waves coming ashore. Maybe I'd be seeing some birds. Maybe I'd be seeing, other people walking along the beach. What kinds of things would you be hearing? Again, you might be hearing water, could be hearing birds chirping. You might be hearing leaves rustling in the trees. What kinds of things would you be smelling? You might be smelling like the salt in the air. And so what kind of things you might be feeling? The warmth of the sand between your toes or the sun on your shoulders. So again, that visualization just kind of helps calm you down, just helps you to relax a little bit. So again, the beach, that's a common one. Being in the meadow, going up in the mountains. For some people, it might be being in their grandma's kitchen, smelling fresh baked bread, So again, just a tool that can help you just to tolerate if you're struggling with some symptoms. Journaling is the next thing on the list, and again, there's not a right or wrong way to journal. It's just a way for you to get in touch with your thoughts, what kinds of things you've been stressed about, and just, kind of can be venting on paper if you want. You don't have to worry about punctuation or spelling or proper sentence formation. The other thing is with journaling, it's not something you have to do every day. Sometimes people pressure themselves, like, what am I going to write about? So just make it about whatever helps you. It's just a tool. One of the things that people do sometimes is a gratitude journal, where they challenge themselves to find 3 things that they're grateful for every day. And it can be really simple things. And so it just kind of helps put things in perspective sometimes. And then, again, there's individual therapy, there's support groups, you can call friends, you can utilize your support team.
Very good. I want to go on vacation now and eat some homemade bread. Are there any other questions? We really appreciate you having us and allowing us to share more about mental health first aid, and just remembering that we all can be a part of that. We can be that link between the person that needs the help and to the organization that's going to give that help.
And I think, you can see from just a few of the statistics that we shared that there are people that are really struggling with mental health symptoms, and it's not always something easy to talk about. There's so much stigma involved with that. And so, if we get ourselves more comfortable, that we can approach them and just be that extra support that they need.
And with this cute little koala bear, how could you resist?
Right. So we got Algie right here.
That's right. So Brandon, any other questions for us? You're on mute.
I did it again. I think that's all the questions. I don't see any more in the chat. I want to thank you both for spending your evening with us, and thank you to all the watchers and viewers for attending this. It's really important that we keep ourselves healthy. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedules to do this with us.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. And again, if you have any questions about anything, just don't hesitate to give us a call.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.